So if you know me, you probably know I love Nicolas Cage. I just love the guy. Even in terrible movies, I can usually enjoy seeing him do his thing. And I think he might actually be the actor I've reviewed the most movies by, actually. Because this will be at least the fourth I can think of, and he's been enjoying a bit of a career renaissance in recent years too. Apart from the terrible movies he does regularly just for a paycheck, he's also been doing a lot of these smaller indie movies that are a lot more interesting too. Movies like Mom and Dad, Mandy, and Color Out of Space, and now this one. I feel like this one fits into that category pretty much perfectly, to be honest. It's relatively low budget, it's small and very contained in scale and scope, and it gets weird too. Not quite as weird as Mandy or Color Out of Space, but it is up there with the more weirdly unique things I've seen this year at least. And that's one of this movie's strengths. It at the very least feels different. It's also short and doesn't overstay its welcome, and the pacing is pretty tight as well. But what's the movie even about? Well, it's one of these that's pretty tricky to talk about actually. You know, without giving anything away, because, well, the basic premise is kinda simple. But at the same time, what's actually going on isn't revealed immediately. But let's just say Nick Cage plays a random guy who gets stranded in this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, and he has to spend the night because of certain circumstances. Now, of course, things get weird and creepy and sorta get out of hand, I guess you could say, because there's a fair amount of bloody death and destruction in this one. And one of the more unique things about this is that Nick Cage doesn't say a word. He doesn't have a single line in the entire movie, and somehow it works. And I might be giving this movie too much credit, but I think it knows what it's doing. It's playing with common tropes and is purposefully exaggerating them. At least I hope that's what it's doing, and I hope it's not just accidental. And one of those tropes is of course the strong silent type, the protagonist that doesn't talk much. In this case taken to an extreme, but we also have the hillbilly townsfolk, the incompetent cops, and the dumb teenagers. All of these things are pretty much staples in a lot of movies like this. Except in this one it's also obvious that I really do hope it's done on purpose. And what makes me think it is that it's a relatively well-made movie that handled everything fairly well when it comes to most other things. It just feels tongue-in-cheek, it doesn't seem to take itself very seriously, and it's kind of funny sometimes too. Don't get me wrong, it's completely ridiculous and stupid, but also sorta entertaining. And I just found it very hard to hate on this, despite of how silly it sometimes felt. And I will also give it credit for actually bothering to put together some sort of backstory here. Some sort of motivation and framework for the actual story and the plot too. And as dumb as it was, at least it made some sort of sense and showed that the makers of this at least cared a little bit. You know, the story just turned out to be a lot more well thought out than I expected. Now, with that being said, I don't think it's a great movie, but it was alright. I didn't love it, and I didn't hate it, and as a result, I think I'm gonna give this one a low 6. Boop. But would I recommend it? Probably not to most people, but some people will for sure enjoy it. So if it sounds interesting, maybe give it a shot, or you could just skip it. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic.